there, mates. Welcome aboard the VHS pirate ship, and welcome to REEK of the Week, the little show where I examine different aspects of 80s and 90s nostalgia. It's the perfect chance to get a whiff of some childhood memories, because it's the show you can smell. It's REEK of the Week. Well, here it is, September, which means the summer's over, which also means it's back to school time. Yes, a dreaded time of year for children, and when I hear back to school, I can't help but think of back-to-school shopping. And that's not necessarily bad. I do have fond memories of getting a fresh pair of British Knights, but it also means getting school supplies. And there's nothing more fun to a child than choosing stationery. Yeah, usually, a few weeks before school started, parents were mailed a letter stating what school supplies their kid would need that coming year. It was a list of munitions you would need to help you complete the curriculum of that coming semester, and most of it none of us ever used. Like colored pencils? Oh yeah, sure, they'll come in handy. A compass? I mean, what am I making, a map? Who am I, Magellan? A little bottle of Elmer's glue? I mean, you would use some of that, but the rest of it would end up leaking in your desk. And of course, the famous pink pet eraser, which no one ever used. Mainly because pencils come with erasers on them already. And my favorite was the little erasers that had the ink eraser, which was the biggest lie in the history of time. Don't think you can erase ink. And there was other stuff too, like a pencil box in which you would lose immediately, a pencil sharpener, which did the opposite of its primary and only function. You certainly felt bad for your parents for dropping a lot of coin on stuff you ended up not needing. But there was also stuff you did need, like notebook paper, folders, a little pouch for your pencils, and a 3-ring binder. And wouldn't it be a great idea if someone combined all of those things into one practical application? Well, E. Bryant Crutchfield thought so, and in 1978, we got the Trapper Keeper. The incredibly fashionable, sometimes cute, sometimes downright radical line of 3-ring binders that were the ultimate marriage between form and function. They taught us all about the power of organization, and with an almost infinite array of designs, there was one for everybody. Though oftentimes taste would prove to be similar, and you would end up in a class with 5 other guys that had the Lamborghini one, which of course was the most awesome one. Now, whether or not any of us use these things to their full potential is neither here nor there, but the concept was still a dynamite idea. And inventor E. Bryant Crutchfield really had no idea how successful these things would be. He was the director of new ventures for the Mead Corporation, and if you've been to any kind of school at all, done any kind of school supply shopping, then you know exactly who Mead is. Founded in 1846, Mead started life as a humble paper company, but would soon rise to the top of the stationery empire. Mead would indeed become the undisputed kings of school supplies, and the Trapper Keeper certainly helped that fact. And when the Trapper Keeper was introduced in 1978, it pretty much sold out immediately. Besides just being convenience store-alls for your school stuff, Trapper Keepers became known for their designs, and quickly became ways for you to show all your schoolmates just what kind of person you are. Now, you could get just plain ones if you wanted to show no character whatsoever. Hey, look at Lieutenant Lamo over here. But part of the allure of these things was that they were a fun way to display your interest, and any little thing you could do to make school more fun helped out a lot. They became just as personality-driven as lunchboxes would, and it was always neat to see who had what. Now, I say designs as though they were Rembrandts or something, but the early Trapper Keepers really just had pictures on them. However, those simple pictures were enough to display who you were. Lots of choices too, from puppies and kittens to horses, tigers, rainbows, fighter jets, and of course the ever-awesome Lamborghini. There were tons to choose from. The designs started off simple enough, but throughout all the decades Trapper Keepers spanned, those designs got more and more interesting, especially in the early 90s when they introduced the No Rules line, which had really awesome perspective-driven artwork, almost too awesome for Trapper Keepers. This line of Trapper Keepers was extreme. I mean, as extreme as school supplies can get, I guess. Or maybe you didn't want to go extreme. Maybe you didn't want one with tigers or horses or rainbows on it. Maybe you wanted more abstract abstract art. Well, they had you covered there too. They had plenty of abstracto de arto choices. And these designs gotta be one of the major inspirations behind the modern 80s aesthetic art movement the young people love so much. So if you had some of these designs as a kid, just know you were ahead of the curve. Oh man, I was vaporwave before that was a thing. And Trapper Keeper also had some licensed characters too, like Sonic the Hedgehog and Batman. So combine those with all the other design choices you had, it was downright hard to pick out a Trapper Keeper because your parents were only going to buy you one per year. Hell, you only needed one per year. And depending on the condition, you more than likely would use the same one the next year too. You had to choose the perfect design for you, and that was downright hard.
Do I get the Lamborghini or the fighter jet? The tiger or the panther?
Sure was hard being a kid, I guess, but I do miss the days when that was the most important choice you made. Now, perhaps you don't think of school supplies when you think of antiques, but you know, you really should. You probably won't believe this, and maybe you don't want to think about this, or maybe you've never thought about this, but if you were born in the 80s, everything you had as a child is now technically an antique. Hey, if I gotta feel old, so do you. We're in this together. Yes, the original Trapper Keepers are now considered antiques. And believe it or not, there are collectors out there. I'm not knocking that. I mean, who am I to talk? I collect VHS tapes. And old restaurant ashtrays, just putting that out there. I mean, Christmas is coming up. Hint, hint. But anyways, yes, Trapper Keeper collecting is apparently a thing. What's the market like? Well, I suppose it's sort of like the VHS market today, where nobody really knows what they're worth. They just sort of shotgun prices out there and hope something sticks. Nobody really knows what this stuff is worth, and it's only worth what people pay for it. So if no one's going to buy it for that price, then it's not worth that price. Yeah, it's only worth what someone is willing to pay for it, and I'm not going to get into the analytics of antiquing, but condition and rarity have a lot to do with pricing. No, man, no, really? Get right out of town. Trapper Keepers, no matter what design it was, were not rare at all. Basically, everyone had one. They were pretty much everywhere. But does that necessarily mean that they're everywhere today? No, of course it doesn't, and this is where the condition part comes in. Trapper Keepers, as awesome as they were, especially the Lamborghini one, were utilities, which means they were bought to be used for a specific purpose, in this case, is schoolwork. So they were heavily used, and they were made for kids, and kids aren't exactly known for taking the best care of things, meaning that these things were used, abused, and beat to shit. So if a Trapper Keeper actually made it out of somebody's childhood in one piece, it's probably not going to be in that good of a condition. So finding one today in pretty good shape is sort of hard to do, hence the pricing. And honestly, I gotta tell you, there is something intriguing about collecting Trapper Keepers. It would be kind of cool to have the Lamborghini one today, but I don't know. What would I do with it? Just put it on my shelf? That's the last thing I need is more stuff on my shelf. I've already got way too many VHS tapes, and the old VHS pirate ship is sitting pretty low in the ocean, if you know what I mean. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure if I want to become a Gordon Lightfoot song, so I'm not going to start collecting anything else. Or at least, not right now, and the prices aren't too outrageous, except for this one, but I wouldn't want this one anyway. And what's pretty surprising to me is that these listings have a lot of watchers on them, and some of them have a lot of bids on them as well. Man, that Panther one would be pretty cool to have, but again, what would I use it for? Can you imagine going to an important presentation, opening your briefcase, and whipping this bad boy out? You got promotion written all over you, pal. I wouldn't want to just simply display these. Besides, they seem like they're a little hard to display anyway. I would want to get one to use it, but what would I use it for? Hell, I barely used them for what they were intended for when I was a kid. Well, I did use them, but not for schoolwork. I used them to keep all my sketches of whatever video game I was trying to make. Because, heaven forbid, I actually pay attention in school. So now I ask you, did you have a Trapper Keeper? I'm sure you did. Which ones did you have? Did you have the totally awesome Lamborghini one? Do you collect Trapper Keepers today? And if you do you have the totally awesome Lamborghini one? Did you find them useful as a kid? Or did you think they were just a clever gimmick you didn't appreciate? Let me know in the comments below. Well, that about does it for this little video. I hope you enjoyed it. We gotta get to class. Be sure to hit subscribe, share this shit, and take care out there. And I'll see you next time, only on Captain Adam's VHS Pirate Ship.